Now broadcasting from his hidden bunker and fully stocked bar, it is the Saturday Report with Colt Sebastian Taylor.
Thank you once again, my friends, and welcome to the Saturday Report with me, Colt Sebastian Taylor, adventurer, entrepreneur, and amateur three pugs in a large trench coat. Welcome to AWSM Radio, an independent digital-only radio station that plays today's best music, old school classics, along with a rotating cast of all-star DJs. AWSM Radio focuses on mainstream artists, independent artists, along with a variety of interesting talk and music shows throughout the day. All we do is entertain, inspire, and inform. And my friends, I want you to be part of the show, I want to be part of the conversation, so find me on the Twitter, on the Rizzle, on the Instagram, on the Cameo at Colt S. Taylor, and catch up on past episodes and my other adventures at ColtSebastianTaylor.com. Alright, let's get started with this week's Saturday Report. First up, a perhaps final update on Hyundai. Hyundai. Well, as you have recalled for many weeks, even months now, I've been waiting for Hyundai to call me back about my busted transmission. Just for those tuning in for the first time, less than 2 years later and 20,000 miles later of this used car I bought, less than 80,000 miles total, had to put a brand new transmission in there. Called them. They never called back. Called them back again like, oh, we called you. They never called. Finally got a hold of a lovely lady named Melissa. Hello, Melissa. I told you I'd give you a shout out. And I'll tell you what, folks. Hyundai did not disappoint. They did absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. My quote-unquote case manager basically just listened to my same story again, took notes again, and that was it. I waited 3 goddamn months for someone to just hear me again. Well, you know what, Hyundai? Allow me, Colt Sebastian Taylor, to let you know something. Let me update my case with you. I'm going to update my case with you, Hyundai. I am, for quite a while, am going to tell everyone I know, in person, on the radio, in my videos, all over the world, on Rizzle, where I have 250,000 followers and 21 million views. I will let them know frequently that they should avoid not only your brand, the Tucson, but all Hyundai cars, all Hyundai dealers, and if someone's selling a Hyundai privately, you better not, or keep $4,000 in your pocket for a new transmission. So, you had your chance, you blew it, now I will make it, not my mission, because I got other things to do, but let's say entertaining hobby. It'll be my entertaining hobby to promote the poor service, poor quality, poor customer care your quote-unquote company provides. So, I don't appreciate being jerked around for 2 months, but hey, I guess that's just the way the corporate wheels work. So, good luck to your social media team, because I got your posts now on alert, so I'll be alerted every single time you're posting. And boy howdy, if I'm blocked, that'll be breaking news on my show. So, Hyundai, a car you should buy if you want to spend too much and replace the transmission less than 2 years later. I think it's a great phrase. You should really adopt. So, thanks Hyundai for nothing. We now go on from my personal grudges to sports grudges, soccer specifically. The France versus Germany game in the Euro 2020 match this week. Now, as you may recall, last week I did a story about a parachutist landing in a soccer game in Poland and getting a yellow card from the referee. He landed there accidentally. However, this week during this official soccer game during the big tournament, a Greenpeace protester flew over the soccer stadium with the intention of dropping a big old yellow ball in the middle of the soccer pitch, saying to kick out oil and kick out Volkswagen, which is, of course, a sponsor of this year's Euro 2020, but not a sponsor of my show. Thank you very much, Volkswagen. However, flying over the stadium like most stadiums, they have those cameras that fly overhead. They're called the spider camera, and they're suspended by these steel cables, and you really can't see them that well. So this parachutist got slammed the back of his fan. So he had a parachute, but he had a big old fan on the back of his back to propel him through the sky, so he would fly over or whatnot. Same thing with the guy who interrupted the Evander Holyfield fight way back when. So he caught the steel cable with his backpack, shattering the cage that surrounded his big fan. He started to lose altitude, flew real close over the crowd, didn't hit the crowd, clipped the camera, causing his fan to explode, and then landed in the middle of the soccer field, uninjured. Apparently 2 people in the crowd were slightly injured by the shrapnel of his fan exploding. He was helped out by soccer players and immediately arrested and taken off the field. Now, Greenpeace apologized for this. All they wanted to do was fly over and drop the big old yellow ball, cause a little disruption, because that's what they do. And they did not intend to crash into things onto the way down. Obviously, this isn't something they do on a regular basis, so they kind of just shot from the hip. You're probably saying to yourself, boy, that they shouldn't be allowed to fly over there. Well, I mean, you should really put up the security in there a bit. Well, fun fact, friends, apparently police snipers were moments away from shooting him out of the sky. These stadiums have snipers everywhere in case something like this happened. They were about to shoot him, but he had Greenpeace written on the inside of his parachute, and if they had not seen that, they would have killed him. They would have shot him, and then his corpse would have flown over the stadium and slammed into an audience. A lucky souvenir for someone to see the France versus Germany game. Fun historic side note, this is not the first time Greenpeace and France have locked horns. In 1985, the French Secret Service sent secret agents to New Zealand, where the Rainbow Warrior 1, which was the ship that Greenpeace had bought and outfitted to attack whaling fleets and fly into nuclear testing sites to disrupt things that they felt were against the environment. These French secret agents flew into New Zealand, got on wetsuits, went into the water, swam across the bay, and blew up their ship. Well, they didn't blow it up. They punched 2 holes in it so the ship would sink. A journalist died in there. Caused a major international incident because New Zealand and France are supposed to be friends. A few French agents got arrested. The rest escaped. France had to pay Greenpeace millions of dollars in a lawsuit to buy a new ship. Trade between New Zealand and France was very, very, very low for a few years. They've patched things up more or less, but France has apologized a few times for sending secret agents into an allies country to blow up another ship and pretend they had nothing to do with it. So, Greenpeace and France, not the best friends, either on the ocean or on the soccer pitch. We continue overseas to North Korea. That happened in a place where, for the first time since 2005, they have given international financial aid to another country, $300,000. North Korea, as you know, don't have a whole lot of money. They've been dealing with a decades-long famine, but they're giving $300,000 to, drumroll please, Myanmar, also known as Burma, currently going through a large crisis over there where the military is taking over basically all government functions, kind of a military coup. But they've given $300,000 to the Myanmar the Myanmar Humanitarian Fund, through the UN Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. So they gave money to the UN to Myanmar to support humanitarian efforts over there. The fund calls for $276 million to help Myanmar, where the government was ousted in February in Myanmar by the military over there, being led by Aung San Suu Kyi, which I'm saying incorrectly, and there's been a lot of just there's a lot of protests over there, a lot of bloody crackdowns. It's kind of a mess there as well. North Korea last sent money to the UN in 2005 during the tsunami to help with the relief efforts in the tsunami in December 2004. North Korea and Myanmar have a long-standing relations, and is probably, according to the UN, believe that the main weapon supplier of Myanmar is the North Korea, and then allegedly they have been working together on missiles as well. So, they're both kind of rough in the world stage and whatnot. So it's only natural that they are real close buddies on there. But it's been noted the first time in over 10 years that North Korea has sent money to another country to help out. Turns out it's their friends in Myanmar. Now, friends, you're probably saying to yourself, boy, $300,000 from North Korea. Where did they get that money? Well, I have on good authority that they tried to hire my friend DC to come to North Korea to play. He said no, so they had to put that money somewhere, so they sent it to Myanmar. But you, my friends, if you're in North Korea, you probably can't hear him. Can't hear him on AWSM radio. But if you're not in North Korea, you can listen to DC live in effect right here on AWSM radio. He is our in-house DJ. DC mixes it up every Friday night, 9 p.m., Sundays at 10 p.m. You do not want to miss out while he is smashing it on the ones and twos, kicking the beats from South Florida every single week. And maybe those beats will travel over the Pacific Ocean and open up North Korea to the world. One can only hope. I'm sure if DC was asked by the State Department, he'd go. But until then, you can listen to him, DC live in effect, Fridays at 9 p.m., Sundays at 10 p.m., right here on AWSM Radio. We now move on to one of my favorite subjects, Scotch. So good. Yum, yum, yum in my tummy. Scotch, for the last couple years, have been subject to a 25% tariff on single malt Scotch, one of the harshest tariffs to be put on any products, really. Probably ask yourself, whoa, how did that happen? Well, let me tell you, my friends, airplanes. Yes, airplanes. For the last 17 years, the United States and the European Union have been engaged in a trade dispute over Boeing and Airbus. They're two airplane makers. The United States is saying that Airbus is getting unfair help from governments, making them more competitive. And you have been saying that Boeing gets favorable treatment as well, making them more competitive. So they've been kind of arguing in the World Trade Organization for 17 years, the longest argument in the World Trade Organization of the existence of the organization. But they've come to a sort of temporary agreement, hopefully coming to a long-term agreement about tariffs and how they do their airplanes. But the best news is that tariffs on Scotch have been suspended for the time being. The United Kingdom is no longer part of the EU, so now they're in a little bit better position to deal with that. So the U.S. is also suspending their own tariffs on Scotch while they try to figure out a final settlement between the two disputing companies and the disputing government. So looks like they're coming to hopefully a conclusion here with this dispute, and other tariffs in other areas between the United States, the United Kingdom, and hopefully the European Union will eventually come to a close as well. But the best news, if you're a lover of the Scotch from over the pond in Scotland and other parts of the United Kingdom, starting next month, you should see prices come down a little bit. I don't know if they'll come down by 25%, because I'm sure they will probably take some profit first before they bring them down. But you should see prices begin to ease, making it just a little bit more affordable for those who like a little drinky drink at the end of the night. Next up, folks, I want to talk about mistakes. We all make them. Sometimes we don't label things well. I mean, for example, like if you're downstairs and you have the circuit breaker, you don't know which circuit breaker goes to which room because you wrote things in pencil. Now 5 years later, that pencil is faded, so you have to do trial and error, and you turn off the wrong thing. Or maybe you are having a yard sale and you put the wrong price on the wrong thing, and so if someone walks off with a plate that you wanted $1 for, they got it for a nickel. It happens. And then sometimes you accidentally sell the town's water tower. It can happen. And actually, it did happen in Florida. Yes, Florida of all places. Go figure. In Brooksville, Florida, the town accidentally sold its water tower. To somebody for a steal at $55,000. I mean, just a steal water tower. Those things are not cheap. Apparently, they wanted to sell a. The city officials were wanting to sell something. They wanted to sell a building that was sort of next to the water tower to somebody, and they wanted to sell this building. And next to the water tower, there was a lot of the big parking lot and the water tower. Well, turns out that no one in council really took a good look at the description of the plot, and when they said that we're going to sell parcel whatever, that parcel included the building, also a parking lot, also a large water tower. And they legally signed off on this. I mean, it kind of just said what it was in there, and they accidentally sold it for a ridiculously low amount of money. Now, city council is blaming the city manager because they rely on the city manager to do their due diligence. And then the city manager, named Mark Kunti, blamed a bad legal description. Bell told the newspaper he's unhappy we lost control of our water tower, but that the city gave a lot of parking with it. So yeah, they accidentally sold way too much for way too little. They said they've rectified the mistake, but in the article I look at, I don't know how they accidentally. I don't know how they rectified that. I mean, it's not like this person turned off the water. Maybe they arranged for it to be given back to the city, so the guy didn't have to be in charge of it. But yeah, they accidentally sold a water tower to a guy, and the guy technically owned the place where the town kept its water. You really need to read those plot maps a whole lot better there, because you really need to know exactly what you're selling. You gotta be careful there. You gotta be real careful there. But hey, that's Florida, right? We now move from Florida to South Carolina, where all state executions have been stopped by the court. Probably saying to yourself, well, good, Colt. I'm glad the death penalty is off the table in South Carolina. How progressive for that state to do so. Or you're saying, Colt, the progressives are ruining this country by taking executions off the table. How dare they? Well, one of you is going to be very happy, and one of you is not going to be happy. South Carolina executions have been blocked until the state forms a firing squad. Yeah, it's like that. You see, in South Carolina, there are 3 methods for state-sanctioned executions. There's lethal injection, the electric chair, and a firing squad. They recently changed the law to make firing squad a option for prisoners to pick. I guess prisoners can pick their method of execution here. And, well, they don't have a firing squad, and drug manufacturers are all over the country no longer selling lethal injection drugs to prisons. So really, they only had one choice. It was the 109-year-old electric chair. Well, the court said, well, if that's the only thing available, then they don't really have a choice. They don't really have a choice anymore. So you need to give them a choice one way or another, so you gotta form a firing squad. So that's the way it works. They stopped doing executions for 10 years, but then they changed the law that makes the inmates choose the electric chair or a firing squad if lethal injection isn't available. So lethal injection is their typical way to go about doing things. But if that's not available, they got a choice of the firing squad or 109-year-old electric chair. As you may have guessed, electric chair maintenance companies are hard to come by now. Not too many folks in the electric chair business anymore. So they got to wait for a firing squad. There's no word of how long that's going to take. I imagine they probably have quite a few volunteers, but the folks who are eager to join a firing squad team probably aren't the folks you want on a firing squad team. The way that works, just for those who are curious, is usually 7 to 9 people. Usually 5 to 6 have live rounds, and the other folks have blank rounds, and they don't know who has who, so that when they fire, no one actually knows if they fired a blank or if they fired an actual bullet, so that they're sort of, consciously in the clear that, well, I probably had a blank. So, yeah, that's generally how it works. Maybe South Carolina has the fake ones, a bang flag comes out of the rifle. I doubt it. But, yeah, that's how that works. So, executions, right now, there's 2 on deck down there. Gonna have to wait until South Kakalaki forms a firing squad. We now move to music, where the music catalog acquisition market is really heating up. Major music groups are buying up rights to different catalogs. As you may remember in a previous episode, Bob Dylan sold his entire song catalog for $300 million plus to Universal Music Group, who spent $1.7 billion so far. Sony Music Group spent $1.4 billion in 6 months last year, including 9 figures for Paul Simon's music. And then today, Warner Music Group spent $100 million to buy the music of David Guetta. He's a music producer and whatnot. Did some produced the hits of Bruno Mars, Sia, among others and whatnot. He created, David Guetta apparently is referred to as a shadow catalog or modern pop classics, apparently. So these music does very well on streaming services. Now, there's some concern that over the next 10 years, his music will not be as popular, but some of his songs released 10 years ago are still popular today. Apparently, Guetta, according to Spotify's trends and numbers, is the 8th biggest artist in the world with 54 million monthly listeners, which is pretty amazing. Now, a lot of these big music groups are trying to fight off startups, these like sort of hedge funds who are buying up music and whatnot. For example, a group called Hypnosis Songs Fund bought 50% of Neil Young's catalog and 100% of Lindsey Buckingham's song catalog. So it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of these big groups and a lot of these smaller groups buying up the rights of songs. No one has bought up the rights of my show yet, although I will say I am most definitely for sale. I'd sell in a minute. Oh my goodness, yes. I'd drive a hard bargain, but it won't be that hard. So, once again, the music acquisition market's heating up with another big purchase by Warner Music Group. Now, if any of these groups was worth their salt in forward looking, I'll tell you who they need to buy up. That's my friend Rox. That's right, the Rox Sessions. She should be paid millions for what she does. She has a great show. We both should, to be honest with you. We should both be paid millions. We should have our own shows all over the world. I think it's pretty clear that we're the talent. We're the talent here. We're the prettiest people on AWSM Radio, and we're most talented. But if you don't believe me, well, then you're a fool. Then you need to listen to the Rock Sessions. It is a drive time show making sure your evening commute home is fun, featuring the hottest music on the charts and some surprises in between. She will make it rock style, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., right here on AWSM Radio. Download the app, listen on your computer, and listen to the Rock Sessions right here on AWSM Radio. We now go overseas to Saudi Arabia, where the Hajj is set to start soon. It is an annual pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca, which is very important to the Muslim population around the world. I believe it's one of the things that everyone has to do once in their life as part of their religion. And normally, millions of people from around the world come here every single year. In 2019, before the COVID-19 outbreak in 2020, 2.5 million Muslims from around the world participated in 2019, and Saudi Arabia is the big gatekeeper. They can only let in so many people from so many countries. They kind of keep it organized so that it goes as smoothly as possible. Past years, they've had issues and whatnot. Basically, the 70s and 80s just had issues trying to keep things organized. Now it's a well-oiled machine right now. They've done a lot of building up the area to accommodate people, whatnot. In fact, in Mecca, the world's tallest clock tower is in Mecca. The highest clock with a clock face in the world is in Mecca. I learned about that the other day. But anyways, only 60,000 people can come this year for the Hajj, as opposed to 2.5 million to have a socially distanced pilgrimage here. And they will be using robots for the first time to get water, to move water around and give water to people, because it is in the middle of Saudi Arabia. So it's pretty warm there in July, whatnot. So they have 20 robots going around helping visitors and pilgrims during the Hajj. They will be handing out water, giving some information, helping them get around and whatnot. So they're trying to adapt to COVID-19. So the Hajj is one of the 5 pillars or key duties of Islam. But this year, as it were last year, it's only permitted for those who live in Saudi Arabia and who are vaccinated. So no outside visitors to the Hajj this year. Hopefully by next year they'll be able to get that up and running again. But they are trying to have a socially distanced Hajj this year in Mecca at the Grand Mosque, built around the Kaaba, the black cubic building holding one of the most holiest objects in the whole Muslim world. So that was interesting. They're incorporating robots in this very religious ceremony in Saudi Arabia, or religious pilgrimage in Saudi Arabia, to try to keep everyone as safe as possible. So hopefully next year they'll be able to get that figured out and get more people vaccinated so they can safely have a large pilgrimage like they do every year. So to my friends traveling around in Saudi Arabia, I do have a few over there. I am an international redhead. If you are traveling to Mecca, I wish you well, wish you safe and health and whatnot. And if you find a postcard for your old pal Colt Sebastian Taylor, send me one, because I love getting postcards. We now go from Saudi Arabia to California, where Disneyland has reopened. They have changed their masking policies in coordination with California, which is opening up, I believe, this month. Fully vaccinated guests will no longer be required to wear face coverings, both indoors and outdoors. But those who are not fully vaccinated must continue to wear masks, except when dining. Everyone will be required to wear masks during traveling bus transportation from the parking lot to the park. So if you're on a bus there, they want you to wear a mask. But after that, you don't have to wear one if you're fully vaccinated. They will not be doing on-site temperature checks at the moment. They say since the state has removed physical distancing requirements, then they're letting guests to self-determine their own distancing. They are not checking for proof of vaccination, but they must self-attest that they are in compliance prior to entry. So they probably have to sign something that says, "Are you vaccinated?" And then if you say, "Yes, I am," and it turns out you aren't, you probably will lose your season tickets. So you have to attest, sign an affirmation that you are aware of your fully vaccinated status, or you have a negative COVID-19 test prior to entering the parks. So we'll see how well that goes, because some people will just lie because they think COVID-19 is not a thing. It is. It still is, folks. It's still a thing. So get your vaccination. I mean, if I'm the person convincing you to do it, you probably should have gotten it a long time ago. But if you're going to Disney in California, and if you're fully vaccinated, with the exception of the bus, you can roam around without a mask and without social distancing requirements. But they do say some facilities, hotels, restaurants, attractions, may still have limited capacity or subject to availability. So they're open, but they're saying that you may come across a few things that's not fully open yet. But we're moving, folks. We're moving in the right direction. We stay on the West Coast and go to Washington State, where murder hornets, they're back. Remember last year that icing on the cake of 2020 of having murder hornets? So they're called murder hornets because they don't go around ganging up on people and murdering them, but they do destroy honeybee hives. They go in there and they just really, really wreck them. And a lot of agriculture depends on honeybees to be pollinating the crops and flowers and everything out there. So hornets, they don't pollinate, so we need the honeybees there. Now the honeybees don't attack people generally, but their sting is extremely painful, and if you get a whole bunch, although this is rare, it can result in death. So they generally don't bother people, but they can be quite mean. They're 2 inches long, so they're kind of big. They're big hornets, and they're very hostile towards honeybees. And a dead murder hornet was found in Washington State near Seattle the first time in 2021. Now, they find this to be confusing because it's too early in the year for a male to emerge. So they don't quite know where this one came from, and so they're trying to figure it out. So they're encouraging everyone in the area, sort of amateur scientists, like I'm an amateur scientist, so I'd be doing this if I lived out there, to set up traps and know what they look like. And if they come across something that they think is a murder hornet, to call them, the state agency dealing with this, and so they can try to narrow down where this came from and capture a hive before it kind of gets out of control. As you may remember, they captured a hive of murder hornets last year wearing spacesuits, and there was a lot of attention, like, wow, these big spacesuits, they must have some specialized equipment. And then it came out later that, nope, we just bought these off of Amazon because we never dealt with murder hornets before. We kind of went in there, but thinking, boy, hope these work, otherwise it's going to be a bad day. Fortunately, these thick spacesuit-like outfits were more than enough to protect them from the murder hornets. Okay, so just so you know, if you're out hanging out there in Washington State, a newly found hornet lacks the orange bands on its abdomen, and it likely will come from Southern Asia. So just a shout out to all my friends out there. Be on the lookout for murder hornets to protect the bees, the beehive, so we can continue to have flowers and whatnot. So I don't think those hornets are going to take over that job. No, they're not. So, and they're also an invasive species. They do not belong here in the United States. They're an invasive species. They got accidentally brought over here from Asia in some shipment and whatnot, and one got out, and now they're trying to deal with this. It's kind of like the killer bees in South America. Got out of the lab, and now they're all over the place and whatnot. Although, you don't really hear about killer bees anymore. At least, that was the big thing in the 90s. Killer bees, killer bees. Now it's like, killer bees, all right. speaking of murder and killing it, I'll tell you who's killing it on the show right now. It's Married to the Game. It is our brand new sports show here on AWSM Radio, Married to the Game, every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Brian, Joe, Mac Daddy is going to bring their insights, which are many, analytics, which is also many, and expertise to the table on all the games. And what kind of sports show would it be if there was a little trash talking involved? Yes, that's right. Tune in to catch up on all things sports. Follow these folks on Instagram. You got Brian at Bolstered Up Sports, well, underscore up, between the words. Nick at Mac Daddy Ryan Show, and then Joe at Turn Up the Jets. You really need to check them out. Follow them on there. They are a fantastic trio. Basically the Three Musketeers of sports talk here on AWSM Radio. I'm a fan. So you should definitely check them out. Wednesdays, 9 p.m., Married to the Game, right here on AWSM Radio. We now go over to France, where IKEA has been fined €1 million, which is about $1.21 million, to the world's biggest furniture retailer for being guilty on spying on some of its employees. Apparently, the French branch of the Swedish furniture company was snooping on its workers for years, reviewing their bank records, and sometimes using fake employees to write up reports on other employees. The story doesn't really say why they were doing this, but the IKEA folks were spying on their French employees, looking into their bank accounts, and using fake employees to write up reports on staff and whatnot. So you may think the Swedes, a neutral country, they're so nice. No, they spy. They spy on the French. That's right. Those Swedes are very particular about their furniture, and I guess they were not. Want to make sure those French weren't stealing any Krugerfergenburgers or the Fliegenhangas or stealing meatballs. So, honestly, I don't even know how to pronounce anything in the IKEA catalog. Also, as you may remember, as I mentioned in a previous episode, IKEA no longer putting out a paper catalog. They're going all digital because, well, no one wants paper catalogs anymore. So they sent out the last paper catalog ever last year. Now they're directing everyone to go online. And, well, go online, but, make sure you secure your bank passwords because they might steal it. Finally, this week we go to Major League Baseball, where officials have created a new 10-day suspension list for any pitcher found to use a foreign substance on their baseball to make it more tacky, and so they can grip it better and give it a better spin and make it harder to hit by batters. Previously, they had just given multiple warnings, clean off baseballs, but it has not done anything to stop the practice. So they're now going to suspend pitchers for 10 days if that should happen. If another player gives a substance to a pitcher during the game, that player could be suspended also for 10 days. They're still allowed to use rosin bags, but no substances, including sunscreen. Apparently, if you mix sunscreen with rosin, it makes the ball real sticky, and then therefore they can throw it better. So, new rule. We'll see how many people get caught, but this is big news. Big 10-day suspension for anyone caught cheating using foreign substances on baseballs. Batter up. Well, my friends, that just about wraps up this week's Saturday Report with me, Colt Sebastian Taylor, here on AWSM Radio. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember, you can find me on the Twitter, on the Instagram, on the Rizzle, on the Cameo, at Colt S. Taylor. Hit me up there if you want me to cover a story, or if you think there's something I missed, or just to say hi. I like the attention. And of course, if you haven't already, I say it every week, bookmark ColtSebastianTaylor.com to listen to past episodes of the Saturday Report, and just to find out what I'm doing week in and week out. Actually, Twitter's probably better to hit me up on there than the website, but hey, you should still bookmark the website. I would really appreciate it. Until next time, my lovely, fantastic friends, I am, of course, your friend, Colt Sebastian Taylor, and I'll see you later, right here on AWSM Radio.